Hey, everybody, it's Ken Tucker. Today we are honored to be joined by Mike Michalowicz, and we're going to be talking about his new book, Get Different. This is the Marketing Guides for Small Business podcast. I'm joined by our regular group of panelists, including Ian, Paul, Jen, and Dan. I remember seeing Mike on one of his videos talk about how marketing is perhaps the number one factor in business success these days. And a lot of businesses that we all work with and talk with, they get a lot of business from referrals, but that's pretty risky. And so really businesses need to have a system in place to throttle up or down their lead flow. And so we're going to be talking about all of that today with Mike in his new system, Different is Better. And so with that, Mike, we're really excited. We've had a lot of time to be able to talk with you in the past or listen to your wisdom through the Duct Tape Marketing Consultant Network. We're all a group of that, and I know you're going to be speaking at our summit this year, so we're super excited about that. With that, just wanted to welcome. Thanks, Mike.
Ken, everyone, it's a joy to be with you. Thanks for your patience with me as I had my tech issues. I'm happy to be here.
Yeah, no worries. So I'm really proud to be a Fix This Next advisor. So I'm going to start us off just by talking about and asking you about, how do you see the importance of marketing and where it fits in the business hierarchy of needs, which is really one of the foundational elements of the Fix This Next concept that you've put together?
Yeah. So what I did was I was investigating all types of industries, all types of business, and discovered there's a common DNA, if you will, for business. And it made up what I call the business hierarchy of needs. There's 5 different key elements for a successful business. And the foundation of it was marketing. There's a saying that no one knows anything about your business until they do business with you, except for your marketing. That's the only awareness they have of you.
Wow.
So marketing defines your business until that transaction happens. And so we have to have extraordinary marketing.
Yeah, absolutely. When I look at the vital needs, especially in the areas of sales and profit, the marketing aspects of that just really jump out so strongly to me. And what I was excited about with the Fix This Next Advisor program is, I've been doing marketing for a very long time, but I love the way you kind of frame everything in a larger business context. And so, that's why I'm so excited about it. And with that, I'll turn it over to the rest of our panelists. I know we've got a lot of questions for you, so here we go.
Yeah, absolutely. With marketing being so important, why do so many marketing plans fail?
Well, because they're really not a plan on something that's effective, right? So we hear often like, oh, everyone else is running Facebook ads. I got to do that. My marketing plan is going to use this best practice from the industry or something I heard, but it really isn't thought or testing put into it. What I write about in the book is actually being retitled to Get Different, and there's a whole reason behind it. But what I find is that marketing really happens in milliseconds. And what we need to do is first garner the attention of a prospect. Like, you can have the most wonderful message to share, but if no one sees it, what value is it? But once you get their attention, we have a very short period to show them that it's a value to them before they're going to disconnect with it. And then once they need to know it's a value, you have to tell them what to do. And so most marketing plans I've seen fail to consider those micro elements. It's just like, hey, everyone's doing Facebook. Hey, I should run a billboard ad. So once you know it works, a marketing plan is absolutely mission critical. But first, we have to experiment and find what works.
Cool.
That's awesome. And I hear this a lot, Mike. People often, business people are often looking at their competitors to tell them what they should be doing from a marketing perspective. But why does copying your competition almost guarantee that your marketing will go unnoticed?
That's a great question. And it's a common practice because we call it best practices. I was at a conference recently, thank God, things are opening up again. I was the keynote, and before I went up there, they shared a best practice marketing practice. And I'll tell you, there was 3 things I heard over and over. You need to get referrals from your customers, ask for referrals. You need to have a really good looking website and offer a coupon. And I heard it over and over again. I'm like, okay, so those are the 3 things that are going to be the least effective. And here's why. Because if your competition is soliciting or marketing to your customers that way, customers become what's called habituated. This is a behavioral response, but if you've ever been exposed to something repeatedly, we very quickly acclimate to it and we'll ignore it. I bet you all of us can remember the first email, or at least roughly the first time you got an email that started off with the words, "Hey friend." The very first time, this is years ago, I'm like, oh my God, I have a friend reaching out to me, calling me friend? Like, how often does that happen? Which friend is this? And by the time I got to the bottom of the email, I was like, oh, this is marketing. Well, the second person that sent a hey friend was like, is this really a friend or is this marketing? By the third one, I'm like, oh, it's just marketing. And my mind had become habituated. I ignore every single one since. So the shelf value of new marketing expires when the competition starts to saturate with that same message. The best opportunity to differentiate and therefore get noticed is by doing not the best practice, to finding your own new best practice, to doing something that the competition doesn't do.
How much experimentation do you feel needs to be done to the point that you can get to that?
Yeah, so there's 2 levels. There's constant experimenting. We always want to be discovering the new thing. This morning, actually, I worked on a list of 50 new ideas that I came up with. And I'll tell you, I'll give you one of them. I mean, they're really basic ideas, but they're different. I was like, I remember as a kid doing invisible ink, where you take a special pen and decode it. I'm like, why don't they just do that in email? Well, sure enough, it's real simple. In my email, I changed the font to white so it matches the background. It's invisible. And above it, I said, hey, this is invisible ink. Just scroll your highlight over and you can see it. And the person wrote back and said, I've never experienced that before. That was a simple experiment. So experiments are happening continuously in the background. But when it comes to once you find something that sticks, maybe the invisible ink email is my new thing. Once I find it sticks, then I start testing with a small group of just basically survey. So can I test out 100 or a couple hundred participants? There's a certain point we hit what's called statistical significance. And as I did my research, fundamentally, if you got to try at least 100 prospects to ever achieve statistical significance. But if your community is a massive community, you're going to try higher numbers. Once you achieve statistical significance, meaning that small test group proves your concept works, that's when the experiment is done. Now we go into rollout of that marketing plan, and we keep working it, we keep milking it until that cow can't be milked anymore, and we try something new.
Dan, you're muted.
It was a great
Sorry
question.
about that. It was a great question. I guess the follow-up question to that I have is for people like us who are always trying to get clients and prospects to buy into that type of thing, because I get it. But when you are talking about experimentation, how do you make that medicine go down a little easier for people who are, they want to do a little bit of that? It makes all the sense in the world. But on the other side, you got a client or a prospect who's like, wait, you want to use my money to experiment on things? Like, how do you combat that?
Yeah, great question, because I think there's an internal battle going on that complements that. It's like, what if I try something that offends someone? What if it's probably better just to stay in line? But what I want people to realize is we simply need to reframe this. Is if you have something that is truly better than your competition, and I suspect actually of our panel here, everyone in here has something that is absolutely better than your competition. The fact that you're doing this, clearly you're showing and making effort that you have excellence beyond your competition, because they ain't here. If I have something that's better than my competition, don't I have a responsibility to market that? Wouldn't it be a shame if my customer buys the competition because they weren't aware of me? I think if we frame it that way, then we realize we have a responsibility to market. We have a responsibility to get noticed, because it's the only way we can truly be of customer service. It's because we're the better solution. So I want people to get over that by simply realizing you have a responsibility to market, to get noticed. And you got to do it. And if your customers, you're not going to use necessarily customer dollars per se to market to the customer. You're going to use your historical revenue, which of course was generated from customers, but you have to allocate a portion of that money to experiment and get noticed because they need to notice you.
Right. One of the things you talk about in Get Different is this DAD framework. Tell us a little bit about that. What's the DAD framework all about?
Yeah, so it is the essence of effective marketing. There's 3 elements to it, and it results in a very simple to remember, albeit a little bit creepy mnemonic. But here's what it is. The first D stands for differentiate. As I looked at the milliseconds of marketing, like how consumers, prospects, how we respond to a stimulus is we'll always notice different. If we were doing this, like we're sitting in a yard kind of around a campfire or something, having this conversation, and all of a sudden something squiggles in the grass in front of us, we'll jump back because that is an unexpected situation in a normal circumstance where nothing's squiggling. It could be a snake. Different, there's a behavioral trigger. We have to pay attention to it. When you get mail in your mailbox and it's that junk mail, we're habituated. We just can throw it out within seconds. But the second that lumpy mail comes or that big box that we weren't expecting, now curiosity is invoked because it's different. Different gets curiosity and engagement and focus. The A in DAD stands for attract. It must be something that compels us. That snake will get our attention, but we won't be attracted. We'll be repelled. We'll run away. So when you deliver your message, does it speak to the prospect? Does it speak to their needs and desires? The last element, the last D, stands for direct. Once you have their attention, once you have their interest, you must direct them to do something. And I'll tell you, these Super Bowl ads fail to do that. I watch the Super Bowl ads. They're engaging, they're funny, they're different. And I'm like, what am I supposed to do with this? Yeah. Remember it was Budweiser or was it Corona? I don't remember who.
Yeah.
So we need to have a very specific call to action. Now, here's the the simple, cheesy mnemonic. Any marketing you look at, and I'll tell you, you can, my desk here, I got a mug from Rutgers. This is marketing. There's marketing all around us all the time. We ask ourselves, does Dad approve? And I know it's a little bit rough, but it's easy to remember. Anything you look at, does Dad approve? Does it differentiate, attract, and direct? If it fails any of those elements, it's not effective marketing, or at least not as effective as it could be.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it seems like a lot of people are all about the first D and they forget about the A and the D to follow, which is, they kind of go for the shiny object of what's new. Oh, Clubhouse is new, or this is new, and you should all be on that. Versus the other parts of, the A and the D in your framework.
Yes, it's true. We'd say, well, everyone else, and like a Clubhouse example, everyone else is now doing it. I guess I have to. That is it's very quickly will become saturated. So when something shiny new presents itself, people jump on it, like the Hey Friend email. And to your point, I put a case study in Get Different. There was a game company, gaming, software, video games, that decided in 2003 or so to get these little boxes that would glow blue on and off to promote their new game. And they hid these boxes throughout different metropolitan areas, Boston, New York, under bridges and so forth. Definitely different. People walked by, noticed this blinking bomb, and called the police. And so what's going on? It was the absolute opposite. Boston shut down the roads because they thought there was bomb scares going on, and there was a decree from the mayor to shut down this company. We really have to put more thought in than just being the waka waka clown that gets noticed. You have to do something that gets noticed, but it also must attract and direct.
Okay.
I always wanted to say waka waka clown. I got it in. I got it in. That was my word for the day, and I got it in.
Hey, Mike, thanks for joining us. Appreciate it. And, you alluded to something earlier. You talked about this millisecond marketing, and we hear a lot millisecond moments, micro moments. Could you explain, what exactly is that, and how do people consume marketing in these millisecond moments? Yeah,
that's a great question. We can run a little test right now. I challenge all of us to blink as fast as you can, like that, as the fast as you can. That blink, that's what people do. That blink you just did took longer than it does to process the consideration if you should continue with a piece of marketing or information. Our mind is such a supercomputer, it takes longer to blink than to consider if we should proceed. Therefore, when it comes to marketing, it is in these blink seconds that we have to continue to garner attention and interest. And a lot of marketing planning ignores these milliseconds, just says, here's the big plan, but doesn't consider how our thoughts move this quickly. So what I want to do in the front of this plan is have these experiments that control those moments. And you have to win every moment. I can get your attention for a flash second, but I have to keep on winning every flash second. That's the attract phase to keep you interested. The second I do something that's not compelling, you're clicking off or you're moving on or you're not looking at the billboard. And then I also have to give you a direct in that time frame. So you always have these little flash seconds. Now you can continue to extend these flash seconds if you continue to compel and engage the audience. So a really well done TV commercial that you really enjoy and love will keep you to the very end. And I have to have that pinnacle moment of delivering a direction. I will tell you one kind of marketing that we can leverage in all marketing is billboard ads. A great billboard ad speaks to the millisecond. It's got to get your attention from the drone of the highway. So it's got to do something different. It's got to get the message across so quickly that you're like, oh, that's for me. And then give you a specific action that you remember to take because your car is flying by at 75 miles. Well, Ken drives at 95 miles an hour, but you know what I'm saying. You're flying by.
Yeah.
Ken, I had to get a little dig in there.
Yeah, that's interesting because Paul shared an article with me or a video, I think, actually, where somebody was talking about, and this pertains to Google Ads, about the renewed importance of creative. And it's not, and obviously we know the visual elements of social media are the things that garner the fastest attention right now. Do you see a resurgence in the need for creative?
Oh, for sure. Just to build on what you're saying, there was a study I also include in the book from the advertising community of the world. I don't know what their name was or acronym, but they conducted a study on Google Ads, and they defined an ad successful if it's viewed more than half a second. So that just gives you what they're considering a successful ad to be. What it requires is constant creativity. Another case study I include in the book is a baseball team called the Savannah Bananas. I've fallen in love with this team. I featured them in other books. They have a weekly meeting. This is a baseball team on how to create new marketing for the next week. And as a result, they're a minor league team. They get attendance of sold out, 4,000 people at their stadium every single game for 5 consecutive years. And they were even profitable during the COVID crisis when you couldn't have people in the stadium, because they're always creating new marketing ideas. I think that creativity is paramount now. It's very easy to copy others, but it's very ineffective, especially if you're doing it in your market. I will tell you this, you can do some R&D, which stands for rip off and duplicate, if you see someone outside your industry doing it. I remember for my own self, I went to a cleaning conference once. These were like carpet cleaners and stuff, and they were talking about cleaning supplies. And I was a speaker there, so I just happened to be listening in. And this one person says, when you put your cleaning supplies on the supermarket shelves, if you have an 800 number and below it says this is a pre-recorded informational dialogue about this product, call this number, that we get 10% more sales. I'm like, oh my gosh. On my book, this is the pumpkin plan at the time, I put an 800 number saying, call here and learn more about this book. And sure enough, we got a boost in sales. So you can definitely R&D, but you constantly have to innovate against your competition in your industry.
Wow. Yeah.
How about, for folks who are listening, who might have a complex sale to make, and let's say they're selling services instead of a product.
Oh, yeah.
How do you go about using your framework to work for them?
Yeah. So we got to step our way to it. So the direct phase has to be a reasonable ask, meaning maybe I'm selling security services, and this is kind of a case study I'll share with you. But say I'm selling security services for a company, and it's going to be $200,000 to protect this building every single year because it's a big security force. For me to call the CEO and say, "Hey, do you mind sending me a check for $200,000 so we can get started?" It's like, who? What? I have to get their attention first. So we did this. What we did, it was a security company. We went through the DAT framework. We said, well, what would get noticed? What's attractive? And what direction is reasonable? We said, well, if the CEO on her own accord calls us, that's a big deal. So we sent a box to the building where she was, to her attention, knowing where her office was, because they own the entire building, so you know what the CEO suite is. In the box, when it arrived, it said there was a pair of binoculars in there, and said, we want to be your security company, and we want to earn the right to the security company. We know this neighborhood more than anything. We're so interested that we actually have a guard ready in this moment. And if you look outside your window with his binoculars, you'll see us. And we had this delivered by courier, so we knew the time was being delivered. The owner of the business was in his security uniform. We had a sign there. It said, we are ready anytime to talk, including now. And it had his cell number right there. And what he did, he was just standing there, and he had a cell phone in hand. And she looked out the window and said, oh my God, I've never experienced that. Different. Spoke to her, attractive. And the direction was simple. Just give me a quick call. She called, he picked up and said, A1 Security, we're here for you. And she's like, oh my God, this is amazing that you've done this. He said, hey, I just wanted to get your attention because I know we can serve you better than anyone else. Would you be willing to have a dialogue? And of course she said yes. And he got the business. Wow. That is a small step toward the ultimate transaction, which did take a few months to get there, but they got it.
Yeah, you definitely have to, in that case, go big or go home, right? Yeah, that's
it.
Yeah.
Just nailed it. This is all about go big, or you're going to be home all the time. And that's the risk and the fear so many businesses have. That security company, when I sat him down, he's like, no way am I doing that. Because what if, and he couldn't even think of what ifs. Like, what if they shoo me off the property? Like, what if they sue me? It's unrealistic. But I asked him one thing. I said, are you the best security company? Well, and it was actually, there was armed security. So it was for, pretty dangerous work. I said, are you the best? Are you going to give them the best security? He said, there's no question about it. I'm like, then you have a responsibility to save people's lives. You have to do this. And that was the click. He said, oh my gosh, this isn't going big. This is absolutely necessary.
Right.
So compared to this competition, it was big. For him, it was, mission number one.
Yeah. Wow. Awesome. So, we've talked about a lot of great things today, Mike, and I want to be respectful of your time. I do want to give you an opportunity. I mean, you've written so many great books. What's the best way for somebody to learn more about you, the books you've written, and also how can they pre-order Get Different?
Thank you for allowing me to do this. Well, I invite you to go to my website, which I'll give you two paths. You can go to MikeMichalowicz.com, but that's what every author does. It's not that different. Plus, who can spell Michalowicz? There's another shortcut. Go to Mike Motorbike. Now, this is my nickname from high school.
Okay.
It rhymes. So you can just picture me on a motorcycle. But remember, Mike Motorbike. Go there, and I promise you this. You will see what I believe to be the most different website you've ever experienced from an author or otherwise. And I think it'll be of great service to you. All my books, you can get free chapters. There's other resources. I used to write for the Wall Street Journal. Those articles are there. And you can learn about Get Different. But MikeMotorbike.com is where you go.
Okay, awesome.
Awesome.
We are really excited to see you in October.
Yeah, I can't wait.
Assuming Ian and Jen are going to be able to cross the border, they're in Canada.
I know.
So
I hope so.
that'll happen. But it's going to be great. I know you and John. John Jantz from the Duct Tape Marketing Network have done a lot together, and I know you both have books coming out in the fall. We're super pumped about your new book and seeing you at the summit. So thanks so much, Mike.
I can't wait to see you all there. Be well. Thanks for having me.
Thanks. Take care, Mike.
Thanks, Mike.
Bye-bye.
Goodbye.